And we're back. Welcome to another episode of St. James's Pod. In this one, it's the preview show for the season ahead. So we've got loads to talk about in this one. We're going to be covering how we think we're going to do this season in depth, as well as how we're standing at the minute in terms of the transfer window, the pre-season. We're also looking ahead to the first game of the season, which is Aston Villa, which is going to be quite a tasty game, I think, based on last season and the game we had in pre-season. And they've actually done quite well in the transfer window themselves. And we've got some news to come out of the club to talk about as well. So stick around. If you enjoy the episode, please do give it a like. It helps us out a lot. Follow the podcast and hit the notification bell. And we'll be back after this. This episode of St. James's Pod is brought to you by Total Supplements. Visit their website, totalsupplements.co, to discover their range of nutritionist-tested supplements, gummies, shakes, and natural extracts. From popular sports supplements like whey protein, creatine, vitamin tablets, and powders, to mental health supplements such as nootropics and mushrooms, they've got you totally covered. They also have men's health collection offering testosterone support and beauty supplements to keep you looking like your absolute best. I personally use Total Supplements products, and I have been using them from before they came on board to sponsor the podcast, so I'm hugely excited to be partnering with a brand that I know and love. So whether you train hard, work hard, or take an active interest in your overall health, use our code stjames'pod, that's stjamespod, for 25% off your entire order. The link's in the description. Support the podcast and visit totalsupplements.co now and tell them St. James's Pod sent you. I'm here with Alex and Tom. You alright, lads?
Aye, champion.
Talking about
New
champion.
Season.
Champions League to talk about in this episode.
Wait, what a
For the
segue.
first time on this podcast. Quick reminder though, guys, the Amazon documentary is out probably now, depending on when we drop this, but certainly in the next few hours. I'm assuming you both got that on reminder. You're going to be watching that straight away.
Yep.
100%.
I think it's midnight tonight. While we're recording this, so yeah, it's only a few hours away. I might even stay up a little later.
Oh, he's not going to stay up for it when he's got work Friday morning, is he?
On a school night, stay up maybe.
I haven't done this since Call of Duty 4 came out.
I know, Jesus, yeah. I'm pumped on sugary drinks now, so I might stay up and give it a watch.
Been dropping little teasers all week as well.
Yeah.
Aye.
It does look like it's going to be really, really interesting. I think I'm hoping for me it drops at like the same time, so it's going to be sort of like, I mean, I guess it's like 10 a.m. or something here, 11 a.m. So sit down with me breakfast and watch it. Boom in. As well, guys, remember if you're playing FPL. Fantasy Premier League, get your teams into our league. The link will be in the description. The deadline for picking your team is going to be pretty soon, I imagine, as well. It's going to be
6:30 p.m. Friday night, because obviously we've got the Friday game against Man City Burnley. So yes, 1.5 hours before the first kick-off of the week, and we're off.
to get your teams in. I think you can still join the league if you missed the deadline, but get your teams in. And if you're struggling, go back and watch the FPL episodes or listen to them. We did cover every single team in that, and it helped me out picking my team anyway. So
massively helped me as well.
I don't know, like I seen your team, it looks pretty rough. But,
still need a bit more help, mate.
We do have a podcast team as well, so you can go and check out our team and go head to head with us. But let's get into the meat of the show then. Let's talk transfers. So what I want to do is, obviously we've got some new transfers to talk about that we haven't mentioned on the pod yet, but also talk about our thoughts on the transfer window as a whole and how it's kind of left the squad looking ahead of this season. So I think the main one to start with, as we haven't mentioned it yet, is Tino Livramento is in, confirmed by the club. Obviously, young right back. We're after him, by the sounds of it, all transfer window, and to me looks like the perfect understudy for Trippier, as well as someone who can come in and play games this season when Trippier needs a rest or obviously injured or, cup games. So how do you guys see it? Because I know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's probably going to play left back, but I just don't believe that for 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, he has. We have seen him play both sides for Southampton. In obviously not much last season because of the injury he got, the ACL injury. So there's obviously going to be a few question marks on how he's gonna. I mean, he's had a pre-season with Southampton, and I think he did come back towards the end of last season and featured towards the back end of Southampton's season. So he should hopefully be over any of those injury issues, and that he could come in to the team at any time. I don't think he is going to come in straight away. I think he'll
He's
probably
not Eddie
feature.
Howe fit, is he? That's the thing. As fitting as Eddie Howe fit.
There's that as well, yeah. And we know, with Harvey Barnes, like, I would like to think that the games he's featured in pre-season, that he's now towards Eddie Howe fit to start the season. But yeah, Livramento's going to need that bit longer. But yeah, I tend to agree that he's going to probably be more of a right-sided defender, in that he'll come in to help out when Trippier's not playing. Obviously, with Harrison Ashby going out on loan, that means that's one right back that we would have had last season that we can't rely on now. So yeah, Livramento, he's got Kraft still around, and Manquillo for now as well, kind of, who can still play on that side to compete with. But yeah, I think Livramento goes kind of straight in for me as the number 2 choice behind Trippier.
Yeah, I think I might have said it before, but I don't know where people have got this idea that Livramento can play left back or does play left back. When he's at Southampton, when he's been at Chelsea youth level, he's never once lined up a left back. He's played right back for Southampton, and he's played, I think, right mid when he's playing at youth level a bit. I think it's probably much more likely that we'll see Trippier going left back and Tino starting right back. But as you said, Paige, I genuinely think he's just an understudy. I think he's the future. Trippier's getting on a little bit. He's probably still got 2 or 3 years left in him, but Livramento's 20 years old. He's got his whole career ahead of him. People allude to the fact that he's just came off this obviously a horrible injury which kept him out of most, if not all, of last season. But I think he is just one for the future, and he's a much more solid right back to rely on than having to sort of think about Kraft or Manquillo or obviously Ashby before he went out on loan. So, and I'm sure Keith Downey alluded to the fact that the fee actually reported is a bit more than what he thinks or what he's been told from the club. He reckons it's 31 plus 5 million at add-on. So
yeah,
I know when we first broke the story a few weeks ago, well, we didn't break it, but we obviously broke the news of the reported fee and stuff like that. We were talking 15 million, stuff like that. Yes, obviously it's twice that, but still, I think English, young, 20 years old, I still think it's an absolute snip, and I think he's probably my favourite signing for Newcastle from this window, which sounds daft, that's a right back, but I just think he's got so much potential from what we've seen him in. You've got to think he was 18 years old breaking into that Southampton team when he went over there. He's got so much more to offer, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him in black and white.
Yeah, I think it's a quality signing. And we were talking about him in the episode towards the start of the season break, where we were calling out players from the relegated teams that we could see Newcastle signing. But I think in that show we were kind of thinking those players might be a bit of a bargain. Mm-hmm. But I think if it is 31 plus add-ons and we're spreading that out over 5 seasons or something, I reckon that could end up being a bargain, if we look back in a few seasons' time. because he does seem just absolute quality, and there's a reason why Chelsea had the buyback clause in when they sold him to Southampton. So yeah, I think for me as well, like now we've got two right backs where you're looking at it, either one, like on the team sheet, you're happy. And this was kind of my thing with the left back situation, is like we were saying, or a lot of people, probably like 90% of fans were saying we need a left back, and I was in the 10% saying we don't. I got a bit of shit on Twitter when I said that we don't need a left back this window. And what I mean by that is, like, we've already got two sort of like half decent left back options that one can come in for the other, and I feel like you need two players in each position. And it's like, yes, we'd like a left back of a better quality to be starting, but we've got two on the books that could come in and play that position, both probably a 7 or 8 every game. We needed a right back who can come in and do that. We now have one. We've got two left centre backs. We don't really have two right centre backs, so I'm still hoping in this transfer window we can get two, because obviously Shaw's looking like he's going to be injured for Villa, which then leaves Lascelles coming in, or a player that we should probably talk about for the squad this season, Alex Murphy. He played a few times in pre-season, but he played right-sided centre-back in the Seller Cup, so we can talk about him and the predicted lineups and whether he's going to be ahead of Lascelles. But what did you make of his sort of appearance in the first team squad this pre-season? I know you love a Murphy page.
Different, obviously young Irish fella, who's, I think had
obviously
had a good
like that famous Irishman Jacob Murphy.
just distinguishing it. So no, he's I thought he played well. He's quite versatile as well in where he can play across the back. I don't think we'll see a great deal of him necessarily. I think Carabao Cup is going to be, and maybe an FA Cup squad position as well might be on his radar for this season. But again, it was some positive signs with some of these academy players we've seen breaking into the team towards the end of last season and into this pre-season. So I just won't get too carried away with him, but I think he's got potential there to feature in one of those domestic cup competitions. Be interesting to see whether or not he will kind of feature in any Champions League match day squads. Probably won't, unless we're in a real sticky injury situation. But I can definitely see him featuring in squads for domestic cups.
So I've got a feeling the reason he played right-sided centre-back in the friendly was because he's probably not in Eddie's sort of plans for any first-team games, like any important ones anyway, because really he's a left-sided centre-back or a left-back, right? So if you were going to set a team up with him in it and Botman at centre-backs, you would think you'd put Botman right-sided centre-back and him left-sided centre-back. So the fact that he kept Botman in his true position to get minutes in that position, I feel like just shows we put him right-sided centre-back just to put a team out, not to necessarily try and get him in that position playing minutes.
I'm intrigued to see if in a scenario where we're without Cher and we don't, or without Lascelles as well, or we don't want to put Lascelles in, do we shuffle like Burn into centre half alongside Botman and then free up a slot there for, obviously, if Target wasn't available either, then somebody like Alex Murphy comes in and plays there at left back. I'm just intrigued to see if like Dan Burn is going to be kind of used in any way as a centre half more this year than he was last year, with him being predominantly a left back.
I'd assume so. I don't know about you, Alex, but I feel like Botman's alright with his right foot, so that is an option to play him at right-sided centre back if needed. But also, I think Lascelles is probably, in Eddie's eyes, the number 2 right-sided centre back.
Oh, 100%. He's definitely that man in that position. And if Thomas's situation came up where both him and Cher were injured, I fully expect that Botman and Burn would shuffle over and play centre half. I don't think he would hire one of the young'uns in, unless it was obviously a Carabao Cup and he's like rotating a few players.
Well, we forget to mention Kraft as well. That he's featured as a right-sided centre half in previous, under Bruce. We've seen him play in that position, and I think he might have featured once or twice for Eddie at some point in that position. But I mean, that's a very much a last resort situation.
Yeah.
If we're
in that situation, we're fucking struggling.
Yeah, and that it kind of goes back to Sam's point that he made around. I think that is still one more position that I would hope we're aiming to get done towards the end of this month on the deadline to look at that
rumours
position.
Circulating, isn't there? Like there's the Anderson from Palace, and I think there's another centre half.
Mitchell came up today as well.
Yeah. So
but he's again a left-sided player, which is it's a bizarre one there.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's just journos putting like 2 and 2 together like we are now, or
Quite
genuine interest, but it would be nice to see. But in terms of the transfer window, like how you feel it's gone, we can also think about how it is the squad is looking from like this time last season. So we can also look back to January window, because obviously we didn't have those players going into the season. So Anthony Gordon, and I think he's a good one to look at as well, because he didn't feature a lot last season and he's kind of come into his own in pre-season this season. So if you take him into account, as well as Tonali, Barnes, Livramento, obviously Minter went straight out, so am I forgetting it? Somebody? Max is gone, so you need to wait him up.
Kowal was in Jan last year, but went straight out again.
Yeah, and he's obviously gone out again to the Dutch league. Yeah, so how do you see the squad shaping up in terms of like compared to last season, and also like how would you rate this transfer window?
Depth wise, obviously improved in some areas, and we've kind of remained on par in others. Obviously with Barnes coming in but Maxi going out, in terms of wingers, we're pretty much as we were, but then obviously Gordon is if we're counting him in going into this season, he's an extra name in there, an extra body. But yeah, I think still on par really with what we had at the start of last season, for me. And there's certain players in those positions that, like Matt Ritchie still being around, Fraser still being around, which I'd have hoped we could have upgraded on. But in terms of centre midfield, I think the Tonali signing is going to be a real standout, and it's obviously something that we needed, because we seen when we had suspensions and injuries last season that to Bruno and Joe Linton and Longstaff, that it was a struggle at times. So an extra body in there is going to be good. Although you could argue Tonali is a replacement for Shelvey, who we started with last season. So I don't know, it's hard to say. So in some areas I think we're on par with how we started the season last, but in other areas definitely quality wise have been upgraded. depth wise, yeah, it has in some areas and still questionable in others.
Wheat. I disagree. I wouldn't say on par. I think that's pretty unfair. Like, the only player that we've really lost of quality is Maxi, and we've brought in Harvey Barnes, which people can argue who's better. Even if you put them on a level playing field, we've brought in Harvey Barnes and Tino Livramento, who are two quality players. Tonali's 23, Livramento's 20. Like, young players for the future. Like, these could be here like 10 years. Like, I love how we're targeting these like younger players going forward. Like, they're not quite hit the prime, but they're showing like real like technical ability. I think we're going into this season stronger than last. And
I agree. I think when I say on par, I think more so in terms of like I would have liked to have added more, and that was more of a comment on the depth.
3 weeks to go, mate. There's a lot of time left.
No, there is. I just like we said, with like the fact that we want to have two players there which are going to be competing against each other solidly. So I think we probably, I don't know, maybe we are, and maybe I'm just overthinking it, but we're
more.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of the depth, Tom,
hold on a second.
I'll shut the window. We can also talk about Lewis Miley, and Elliot Anderson's come into his own in the pre-season as well. Probably way more up in the pecking order than he was this time last season. I remember this time last season we were debating if he was going to go out on loan or not. So
I was saying he wasn't good enough this time last season.
Yeah,
you should have even me wrong this pre-season. Yeah,
he's looking at this pre-season for sure. So there's two. The thing with Anderson for me is I actually see him as like a real similar player to Harvey Barnes. Very similar like mould of a player. So I'd love to see him be the kind of the rotation option to Barnes on that left side. And obviously at Bristol he was like smashing it in that position, and he's way more attacking minded. But in pre-season he's been utilised in centre mid, so I guess that shows versatility, but also it kind of begs the question of where would you play Gordon if Anderson was going to be the understudy for Barnes, and then Lewis Miley's come in as well. So obviously in terms of depth, I know they're not going to be, like they've done really, really well in pre-season, especially Anderson, like looking like a first teamer. But people are kind of raving about Lewis Miley. Do you see him actually having a chance of, starting games in Premier League, Champions League, or is he just going to be depth in and around the squad training and used maybe as a sub in cup games? He's got
to just be a depth option, you'd think. Like, going back to Anderson first, like I know he's played quite a bit in central midfield, but like I think half of that is because, like, when you're rotating between games, say like last weekend where you've got a game Saturday, Sunday, and we'll play this 4-3-3. Well, obviously Eddie has tried to mix it up, but generally we'll have 3 centre mids on the pitch. That's 6 centre mids you need for the 2 games, so we need him in there because we've basically probably got about 6 centre mids, including Lewis Miley, who can't play in that position, and obviously with Willett being injured as well. Yeah. If you rotate in the left winger, that's 2 players you need. If you like, so it's just finding that place in that position because we're saturated with players that can play on the left wing now. I know going into the season a lot of people said a big need of ours is a right winger. We haven't brought one in, but we have got arguably Barnes, who can play on the left, which pushes Gordon out onto the right. He's right footed. We've got Murphy, we've got Miggy, we've still got like enough options, but with Miley, I can't see him starting many games other than maybe Carabao Cup games. But I can't see him really starting Premier League games unless we've got a real injury crisis. I think he'll be more of an impact player, a squad player. I think he'll get some minutes here and there, but I think generally, I can't see him getting many full games and many starts over the season. Not because he's not good enough, but I think we do have a lot more options in centre midfield going into this season. Like, Sean Longstaff may not even start this season, and he ended last season as one of our best players. Yeah. So I just don't know where you'll find that space unless, we do have a few people out. Don't know about you, Tom.
Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think the pre-season he's had has put him in a bit of a shop window for a potential late loan move in this transfer window if Eddie feels, he's...
I think Eddie said he's going nowhere though, hasn't he? I think he said with his age he wants to keep him in-house and keep him with his family and stuff and nurture him through.
I mean, that's a sensible move, I think. I think we mentioned it on some other podcast during this pre-season that we've seen how the loan system hasn't favoured some of our other academy players in recent times, with Matty Longstaff being one of them. But yeah, if that's the case and Eddie is committed to keeping him with us, then great, because I think he is going to be better served training and playing with the standard that we've got now in the first team. So but yeah, I agree though, he's not going to probably feature in any major games apart from Carabao Cup and maybe only the early rounds, depending on the teams that we get drawn against, is how I would see it personally. But yeah, great talent, and I think he's kind of shown as well, even in that one sort of appearance at the back end of the season, last game of the season against Chelsea, that starting he looks more than capable of coming in. So if there's a massive injury crisis and he's called upon, I have no worries that he isn't going to be able to step in and do a good job. So yeah, testament to his progression at such an early stage in his career as well.
Yeah, I think with having 5 subs as well, I think that's going to be great for us in terms of the quality. I know you're saying the depth might not necessarily be as deep as it could be, but the quality has risen, and somebody like Lewis Miley showing that he's good enough. With having 5 subs, if we're winning games especially, he can come on for minutes this season. But what I was going to say is we can pretty much now just swap our front 3 for the last half hour of the game. Still have 2 subs there in case of injuries, and that's just going to be massive for us this season, I think, because there's not many teams once you get past sort of the big 6 that can do that. They don't have the depth to do that, and we're probably still a little bit off that in every single position. I don't think we've got 2 11s that are as good as each other, but certainly that front 3, if you think if you start with Barnes, Isak and Miggy, and then you bring in on Wilson, Gordon, Murphy for the last half hour, that's going to terrorise some defences. There's a lot of pace in there, and obviously Wilson's just, we know how much of a good goal scorer he is, so whether we're winning games or trailing games, I think we could see that happening a lot.
I think you've probably made me go 180 on what I was saying earlier now on the depth. I think the main reason why I had those sort of slight concerns was just that it's like having good out and out players for those positions, and that I'm not one for necessarily trying to put square pegs in the round holes sort of approach, but I think some of the players we've mentioned, they can play multiple positions but play them reasonably well. Like we've said, Anderson can go from centre midfield or be pushed up into that front 3 and do equally well. I'd obviously like to see him nail down a sort of position that he would ultimately favour more, and the same with Gordon, because again everybody's saying he can play any of those front 3 positions and potentially even feature through the middle. I wouldn't necessarily want to have to rely on that, because I'd prefer to just stick out on the wings. But that was just more my kind of feeling on depth as such, is that I just want, like most of the big six, like you mentioned, have 2 players per position who are designated for those positions, pretty set on those ones, and they're obviously very good quality players that can come in and do that role. So I think, yeah, we're maybe 1 or 2 transfer windows off getting to that point, but for now at least, yeah, like you've just said, I feel a little bit more confident in the way in which we can still change our team up midway through games, and like you say, if we're putting in a different 11 for a different competition, I think we've got enough there to still be competitive in whatever way we set up.
Yeah, I think like you guys, you were saying before the show, like you were talking NFL or whatever yesterday. I think the Premier League's getting more like that in a way, where it's like you have almost like you've got a team for the first 60 minutes and then a team for the last 30 minutes, and then that team for the last 30 might start the next 60, and then you like swap it around and stuff like that. Because with having 5 subs, like it is a lot, and obviously you need to save one for in case there's an injury or whatever. But if it's
Shaw's fucking game league concussion.
Well, I was going to say, if it's a concussion, you get an extra sub anyway. So, I think we should just briefly talk about how we think pre-season's gone as a whole, because we've obviously been covering pre-season as it's been going on. But what do you think, Alex, in terms of this pre-season compared to last pre-season, and how do you think it's fared us going into the season starting not this weekend?
I mean, to put it shortly, Newcastle United will never be defeated. 5 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses. And I know it's pre-season, but like when we're like flipping like full 11s round in games and still managing to get results, and obviously the summer series, it was competitive. Like we were playing Brighton, Villa, Chelsea. Then no pushovers. Not one of those games are pushovers. And I know, like say, like the Brighton game took till late on to come back and win it, but we did. Like Anderson pulled a couple out of the bag. I think the performances from some of the players, obviously Anderson being one of them, Miley being another, a lot of the young players coming through, it's promising to see. Like, and I think obviously we've had no injuries. Willock's coming back slowly. Longstaff, I think it sounds like will be back for the weekend. It sounds like it's went as good as it could have, and you've got players being integrated. Harvey Barnes coming in, bagging a few. Tonali finding his feet. I'm struggling to find any negative about what's happened with our pre-season. As Paige said, yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 more players in. But then Eddie Howe's turned around and said, we're not buying a new striker. Like, say, like I think Anthony Gordon's done enough in the under-21s Euros to prove that he could be a backup striker if need be. So, for me, maybe getting a few players more off the books, the likes of like Hendrick, Hayden, as you said, Fraser, players like that. But you're nitpicking at this point. Those players are on such big contracts because they got given them in the Ashley era, so we're still paying the price for those daft fucking contracts that they've got. But bit by bit, window by window, the new owners are just, I think they're progressing the club exactly how they want them to be. Young players coming in, as I've mentioned. Yeah, I'm a happy man, and I can't wait to be back on Saturday. Couple of days time, like, and my safe standing seats are in, ready to go. As long as I can use my e-ticket to get through the door and don't get broken or something like that. So the turnstiles don't work. But for pre-season for me, a 9 out of 10. Maybe a 10. I don't know what more could have went right, to be honest. Winning the Salah Cup.
Yeah, I didn't concede a goal. Like, yeah, I think I'd echo everything that Alex has just said there. We've had like pre-seasons in the past where I remember we got beat 6-0 by Leyton Orient when we a season after we got relegated, I think the first time round, and that was an absolute low point. And compare that to the standards we're at now. Like the games were played at the level that you would expect from Eddie Howe. Like they were played at, you know, regular season kind of mode. The manner in which we've like were clinical in finishing. Like as we've mentioned, like some of the young players were stepping up, but even the players from last season who like Miggy, for example, had a great pre-season, and that's great to see because it just shows that the consistency is still there. The levels are still being set highly amongst those guys. They know that in some respects, you know, positions are going to be they're not guaranteed now in certain areas of the pitch. So people are stepping up and making sure that they secure that position in the team, and like just really an unbeaten pre-season has to be seen as a very good position to be in going into the start of the season.
Something I found really interesting, Eddie Howe said in the Cellar Cup, was that the training was still intense, but not as intense as it had been during the summer series. So you saw like some of the players looking a little bit leggy in the summer series, and you're like, oh, the heat and stuff like that. But I think actually in reality, he was absolutely smashing them, like in terms of training, fitness, and everything. And then they were having to play games against the likes of Chelsea and stuff. And I doubt that the Chelsea team were doing the same thing, like with a game coming up. So it'll be interesting to see if, when it comes to playing them in the league, which obviously we'll be playing one of them this weekend in Villa, how different we actually look compared to how we played against them in the summer series. But what you were saying there, Tom, I was just thinking one player that we could probably talk about in not having the best pre-season is Bruno. So I don't know how you guys feel, but he's kind of looked like he ended last season, where he was just, his form just dipped a bit. He doesn't really seem to have hit the ground running.
I agree. He was one that was in my mind as I was going through that and mentioning the ones from last season, like who were standouts like Miggy, but Bruno, I think we can kind of, in some respects, let him off to a degree. I mean, he's obviously personal life-wise, like this pre-season is the end of the season. He obviously got married, and like there's maybe, and he's been, I think he was away, wasn't he, with Brazil for some friendlies, I think, was he as well, this off season. So like I think in some ways, him and Big Joe, I mean Big Joe's had a good pre-season, must admit, especially the Cellar Cup, but I don't know, Bruno might just be needing an extra couple of weeks, or he's just a few weeks behind everybody else, but I wouldn't say it's cause for alarm bells or anything like that. I know there was some rumours of potentially clubs looking at him. I don't think we can read into any of that either, like in terms of why he's been slightly off the ball this pre-season, but I don't see it as an issue. I honestly just see it as though he's just had a bit of a more disjointed kind of off-season due to more of his personal stuff than maybe some of the other players. But that's all I would say.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things, like, all players aren't going to come into pre-season at the same level of fitness. Like, Elliot Anderson coming in, like, fit as a fiddle, like, early 20s. Bruno, like, is not necessarily going to... Like, every player's not going to come in at the same level. Like, I just think... Do you not think it's, like, one of those where, like, you'll just up his game for, like, when it gets to the proper games as well? Like, he loves, like, being in St James's Park, He loves the atmosphere. He loves getting like proper up for it, like in like proper meaty games. Do you not think he's just like he just wants to get back to the competitive games and can't quite get himself up for these like glorified friendlies in a way?
Yeah, I'd agree. I did watch his little. I don't know if you guys seen it. His body cam stuff that he had for was it the Villa game in the summer series. And yeah, even there, like you could tell his intensity levels were not the same as if you put a body cam on him in like a game against Liverpool in this season, for example. Like, you know, you'd be crunching into tackles more, you'd be just demanding more of the players around him. I think he was a little bit more lethargic from what I could read into it on that body cam footage. So I agree with what Alex has said there. I think maybe mentality wise he's just one of those guys who just sees pre-season as just the lack of competitiveness just doesn't drive. We know he's a competitive player, like, you know, so certain players that they'll just perform at a level whatever the game, like, but certain ones need that extra competitive edge, and I think Bruno's certainly one of them. And yeah, no issues with him coming in to the Villa game and not being, you know, straight on it competitive, and just seeing the sort of standards that we've seen from him at the start of last season, where he was. And yeah, I think he's gonna hopefully be hitting those levels again.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, as of Villa, hopefully straight back in. But I think let's move on to predictions, because we've been waffling on now quite a while on pre-season, and we still need to talk about Aston Villa. So let's get our predictions rattled through for this season. I guess what we want to talk about here is how we think we're going to do in terms of all competitions in a more general sense, but also then let's do a Premier League position prediction. So I think in a general sense, what I'm expecting from this season is probably to hit a similar points total in the league, if not better. Yeah,
if not better.
If not better, yeah.
Setting the bar high.
That is high.
After pre-season and like the transfers we've had in, I know, like, I was a bit tentative at the start of pre-season, thinking like, you know, anywhere probably between sort of 5th and 8th is still going to be a good season, which it still will. But I feel like now that we're getting into it, I don't know if I'm just getting excited, like, but I feel like we're
getting a touch excited.
No, I think we will. I think we've got quality players that can compete for all competitions. So I think we will.
That's fair. I think from my perspective, you got to take the rest of the league, and I think the levels from the rest of the league are going to be stepping up. And not to say that, you know, we fluked our way into 4th last season because everybody else was having a bad season. I don't think that for 1 minute. I think we got there on merit, but I do think we're seeing the standards increasing again and again from some of our rivals around us. And yeah, I mean, we finished last season just shy of hitting 20 wins. Like, I'd love it if we got anywhere near that again this season, but I think, yeah, we might. I don't know. I'm not going to say.
Where will we finish?
Right, okay. Man, it's tough. I want to say 4th again. Like, I want to be Champions League again.
You've just said to Sam that, like, finishing top 4 is going to be a bit outrageous. Then you go and turn around and say, "No,
I said I would."
4th.
No, I said I would like to finish 4th again and be Champions League again next season. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say we're gonna be about 6th.
However, 5th could be Champions League next season. Got to remember, with the new Champions League rules, the top 2 countries with the best coefficient from the Champions League on the 2023-24 season get an extra spot. So if English teams come either first or second in the sort of the general coefficient, so if like all four of the teams, we're basically rooting for the rest of the teams in the Champions League from England doing well as well,
Yeah.
because we want that fifth spot going into the 2024 season.
And that counts, doesn't it, for the other teams in the other European competitions as well? Like, so, like, we'd want to see Liverpool and Brighton and Villa going deep into those Europa League and Conference League competitions.
No. I don't know whether it's just the Champions League teams or whether it's all European, because we get more spots than, I guess we get more spots in Champions League than most other leagues. But I was under the impression that it was just the Champions League teams we need to be cheering on. I don't want to be cheering on Liverpool, though. Don't do this to us.
No, I seen it from like how it worked for Scotland, and like obviously Rangers going quite far in Europa competitions has meant that they've now got 2 Champions League spots again, when they only used to get 1 for a few seasons because they were so crap in Europe. But I didn't know if it worked the same way for us. But yeah, I think if obviously 5th and it gets us in, great. I'm feeling like
you're saying 6th.
6 is our position, just with the extra games that we're gonna have, and like it's gonna put a little bit more stretch on the squad a bit. But by no means is 6 in this, the way the league's setting up for this season. 6 is by no means a massive like downgrade. I know obviously it is in the respect of we finished higher the season before, but I think 6 is where we'll be in it, and that's just that.
See, like, I came in to this thinking like, right, probably like 6th, 7th, like that's where I think we'll probably end up. But Sam's like, he's giving us these feelings from down under, and by that I mean Australia, not down under. Like, yeah, the way we're playing, the way we can play, if we keep our levels up to the same like level as we did last season, there's no reason why we can't finish top 4. However, the games are going to surely take a toll. Like, I think we got, I wouldn't say lucky with injuries, but we didn't get unlucky with injuries. We had a few, but generally our first team, or big players in the first team, stayed fit for most of the season.
It's like Trippier, for example. Like, we got lucky he never picked up an injury because he played like every single game, didn't he?
I mean, you look at the obviously we finished with 14 draws last season.
That's what I'm looking at.
Where are we looking in terms of how are we going to be converting those draws into more wins? Are we going to be or are they going to start sliding into more losses? Obviously, we finished with 5 losses, the same as the champions City, which is incredible.
I think we'll definitely have more losses, but I think we'll get more wins. I know you're saying like if we get the same amount of wins, but I think that we'll see the draws be way less. And
if you look at
that means more
like
points.
Our results last season, like if we take 2 of those draws and turn it into a win and a loss, we get more points. So there's a few of those where, say, like Arsenal away, like Man U away, where we probably got lucky to get a point. And then there was these other games, like sort of Palace at home, where we were unlucky to get a point where we should have got 3. So if we as you're saying, if we convert some of those draws into wins, and if we do happen to lose a couple in the process, we still won't be any worse off in terms of league position. Yeah, we'll have less clean sheets, we'll probably concede more goals, but
and if VAR doesn't fuck us over a good few games as well.
I don't want to get started on VAR. The season hasn't even started yet, man.
I know.
That's why I think we'll have a better points total, and like I didn't say we'd finish high on the league. I said we'd have a better points total. So,
but if you're getting like 2 points a game, that's pretty much 4th place. And if we get any more points than last season, that's pretty much 2 points a game. So, if in that case, then top 4 would obviously be on the cards. I think I'd probably think we finish 5th or 6th. Like, but like if you look at the teams around, where as you're saying, Brighton strengthened really well, Villa strengthened really well. Fuck knows what's going to happen with Chelsea. They've bought a fuck load of players again.
Liverpool
have are making big changes in the centre midfield. You don't know how they're gonna like take the pitch.
Yeah, that's
We
fair.
don't know what the hell's gonna go on with Spurs. Like Kane's on his way out, then he's not on his way out, and God knows. So I think if we just need to do our job, forget about everyone else who they've brought in. If we do our job, we are good enough to finish top 4. Whether we will or not, it just depends on that kind of how we handle those extra games. And I wouldn't want to say, but I think top 6 would be a very good season still. If we get out of a group in the Champions League, go on maybe a cup run, I think top 6 will still be a very good season for it. But top 4 would be that's the dream. Like,
So
Yeah.
if you have to pick a position, then Tom's gone 6. What are you saying?
I'd probably go 5th or 6th. I'm gonna go 5th. I'm gonna be a tiny bit more optimistic. Sneak
See-
back into the Champions League.
Yeah, that would be good. Like, but
I think that's probably fair. Like, I don't know where the bookies have got where priced, but I'd imagine it'll be like 5th, 6th. I'd imagine would be higher than sort of the likes of Villa, Brighton, Spurs.
did you see that AI thing that Haswell coming second?
Second, 81 points.
Jeez, it's swept.
See, the other thing that I'm thinking as well is January transfer window. I think if it's looking like we don't have the depth to compete in all competitions, I think we'll buy. I think we'll strengthen. So I'm gonna go and predict us to come 3rd. So
Woo!
also I think we're gonna win the FA Cup, and I think we'll get
Bloody
through the
hope
group
so.
stages of the Champions League, but then don't think we'll get much
Yeah.
further than that.
I
that's
genuinely
fair.
think we could beat almost every team on the day. Like, but it's the almost. Like, can we really go toe to toe with the Giants of Europe?
Just
I'll
depends
go
who we
toe
get
to
in
toe
the
with
group, doesn't it?
I mean,
If
I'd
we only
probably
get
rather
one-
face Real than Man City or Liverpool over 2 legs. Like, that's fucking madness. What am I saying? The fucking the end boss in the Champions League. It's just
But from
Yeah.
the like from a fan's perspective, like I would prefer to like watch us play against Real. I don't
Of
think
course.
like we've got a better chance of beating them, but even if it's just like they're in our group and then the other 2 teams aren't that good, we could definitely still get out of it. It's just if we
Oh,
end up in a horrible group, then
We've seen it before in like the last times we were in the Champions League. We were there like amongst some giant teams, and we competed. I remember the Juve games where we beat them. Andy Griffin at the St James's beat them 1-0. Like, could be another situation. Jacob Murphy popping up for a winner
not
against
sure.
Real.
Let's not get carried away now. I'm not really sure we can take form into account when it was 20 years ago, though.
Aye, no. We
we're
can't,
Champions
but
League form
it's-
is mid.
Champions League form's pretty good to start off with. Like, the last time we played, anyway. We don't know.
Yeah, I think.
The bookies
got
have predicted to finish 6th, by the way.
Fair dues.
No bookies, man.
Had a way in shite, man.
I know.
So,
I know.
do you guys want to call out any cup predictions or anything? Or
Well, you're saying FA
2
Cup.
girls.
I'm saying Carabao Cup. I
do
think
you think
we
we're going to
can.
win the
I'm
Carabao?
not predicting we'll win a cup. Like, they're so fucking hard to win. Like, I think we're
I
we got
don't know.
fortunate with obviously we were draw to get to the final last year. Not that we couldn't beat any other team, but we did have an easy run.
I
Yeah.
think
no,
that experience
I-
though, that experience
Yeah, but-
will help though. Like for the
Would we
squad.
go as strong in the Carabao Cup when we've got Champions League games? I think we're going to genuinely play like a lot more youth players. We went full strength in both cups last season. I can't see we're doing it in the Carabao Cup.
No,
Sure,
but
I
I
think
think
we're doing it in the FA Cup.
I
It
don't
depends
know.
though.
Maybe
If the second string end up getting us through a few stages, then
Well, I think Eddie's shown loyalty in terms of if he does play a different string team and they win in a cup, then he'll give them the fair crack to do it again.
has he though?
But
Didn't he start like dumbing that in the early stages of the cup?
I'm
I
lost
think
to Chef Wed.
Oh, we lost.
I think
That'll be why.
no. But you're right in terms of in the Tranmere game, he did have, but I think that was with respect to the team that we
true.
were drawn against. Like, I think he played to the strengths of the other side, and then we started to play against fellow Premier League sides pretty much in the next rounds after. But yeah, I think it depends on the draw, like, and whether or not he twists it. But he must know that if he could get us back to Wembley after seeing how like up for it the fans were throughout that cup campaign last season, that it can only galvanise. It never like, I mean, people can say like at certain points last season was the cup of distraction when like midway through the season our league form tailed off a little bit, but like I don't know, I don't believe that too much. I think like it was just a factor, but it wasn't the be all and end all. I think the cup in some respects, like, it was a I think Eddie and he'll know that the board want this back there as well. Like, they'll want those days like back at Wembley more regular.
He said he wants to win or something. That's his ambition. He wants to win something. So he's not going to win the Premier League realistically, is he? So
no,
I think he'll go in the cups. But I do think he'll prioritise FA Cup over Carabao. Like,
fair dues. Like,
personally.
I suppose he knows after how horrendous we were in that Chef Wed game that he's got some unfinished business to be doing in that competition. But see how the draw pans out earlier in the season for the Carabao. But that's my prediction anyway. That will go well. I'd like to say we'll win it. But yeah, and then FA Cup. You
did just say we'd win it, man.
Well, yeah, we'll win it.
Not you'd like to say. You did say.
We'll win it. We'll win it. All right. It's hard with predictions. Like, you just like it's the start of the season because you're full of so much faith, but like, yeah, then your realistic head tries to talk you out of it. So yeah, we'll win the Carabao and we'll go far in the FA Cup. And yeah, I agree with the Champions League. We'll get out the groups.
Nice one. I'll clip that up and get that back when we absolutely
deluded Toon fan.
All right, let's move on to the Villa game then. First game of the season, obviously. First preview we've done in a while, and luckily we just played them, so we can kind of gauge off of that how they're going to play in this game, as well as the new signings. But obviously we didn't see Diaby in that game, but he's looked good for them in pre-season.
Well,
where do you see their strengths? Villa, obviously they spanked us last season, but we spanked them as well. So,
well, they've lost one of their strengths in Buendia. So
he's just gone, hasn't he?
Just gone this week in a training ground injury. So and they're reporting 8 months. So pretty much, the majority of the season, which is obviously a massive blow. They're obviously grateful in some respects that they got Diaby done, so that they've got somebody already kind of covering, but they might have wanted to have Buendia Diaby starting alongside Watkins. So yeah, they might have. I'm not sure how they're going to reshuffle necessarily in their starting lineup, but I would have expected Buendia in that starting 11, but now he won't. But otherwise, strengths, yeah, Diaby looks a player. We know he was heavily linked with us. A lot of pace, and yeah, he's obviously got an eye for goal as well.
Are you worried about our left backs against Diaby?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think it was obviously a running thing throughout last season when it was Dan Burn in there at left back, that they would put a pacey guy on that side to try and unsettle him, and he did well to come back from some of the like earlier examples when Saka was started to run rings around him in that game at the Emirates, but then he recovered quite well, and then there wasn't many other occasions where I felt Burn was out of his depth against wingers after that point. But yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly which way Eddie's going to go with our starting left back this season. So yeah, I don't know. Diaby, he could be a threat. I think Watkins is my main threat, though. I think he's obviously proved in that game at Villa Park. He scored twice in that game. He definitely he's a very, very strong player. I rate him a lot, and yeah, I think I'd be pretty concerned about him going into this game, that he might unsettle us a little bit defensively. But yeah, strength wise, that's probably like that. Their front three like is the main call outs I'd make.
To be fair, I think they're pretty solid from back to front. Like, if you look at the midfield three that could potentially start, Douglas Luiz, Kamara, obviously we were linked with him, but we didn't want to pay him obviously what he got at Villa. And John McGinn, like, genuinely, he impresses us every time I see him play. Like, you never think he's that good a player, but like, he's got like energy for days. Like, he's really good. He was causing us problems in the friendly, summer series, whatever, with his driving runs forward. As you're saying, Watkins is the main threat now, especially with Buendia out. Diaby, technically another very good player. Burn, that's the thing, like, as you were saying with Burn, like, he had problems with Saka, but then, like, say I remember the Wolves game, Adama Traore, he hadn't been playing much, but they started him just to have a go at Burn, and he got taken off at half time. Like, because Burn like wrapped him up so much, he made him completely ineffective. So like, just pace itself, like, it's not always enough. Obviously, they inflicted our worst defeat of last season against us. Obviously, put 3 goals past at their place, where we were utterly terrible, to be honest, and it was fully deserved. But I think first game of the season at home, full crowd, everyone up for it, like a Saturday evening game. Like, I'd like to think we're going to come out the traps absolutely firing. Like Eddie said in his little clip that came out from the Prime documentary, let's give them a fucking fast game. Like, and I think like this is the best time to play them. They have brought in some decent players. Obviously, Pau Torres is like a really solid player that has played under Emery before. Catch them early in the season before they can gel, before they can find like a settled team. Obviously, Moreno's out, so they've got Digne in. Digne got fucking nutmegged by Manquillo twice in a row in our game. Twice in a fucking row. Like, he's not good. I know, obviously, when we were linked, I think we signed Target when they brought Digne in. That's how we got him.
Yeah.
And we were complaining because we wanted Digne. That's the player that we wanted in. He's been fucking pony. Like, Matty Cash has been in and out of the team. You know, Mings is liable to making a mistake. Like, I reckon we can really get at them. Like, I know I said they're solid from fucking back to front, but now I'm looking at the defence and I think we can get at them. Diego Carlos came on in that game and he looked a fucking liability. Another one that we were linked with. Obviously, he was injured for the full last season after they signed him, but he just looked like a fucking out of shape. I'm going to say out of shape. Titus Bramble.
Wow.
And he was out of shape.
30 odd millions worth of Titus Bramble part 2.
Mate, I'd rather play Bramble than Diego Carlos from that like half a game that I've seen.
Jesus Christ.
He just looked like an absolute liability, just flying into tackles, missing them. It's like a proper headless chicken.
Well, I think they're going to be in like thinking in some respects a bit like how we started last season, and that we brought in quite a few players in that January of the season before, and we were like, right, okay, we need to get these guys like gelled, ready for the start of last season, which it obviously showed that we'd done that. And I think they're probably thinking likewise, that some of these players that they signed in January and last summer. They just needed a bit of acclimatisation. They've obviously brought in other players who are like Premier League proven already in Yuri Tielemans, so I can see him sort of slotting in relatively okay in that midfield as well without needing too much acclimatising. It's interesting just to see how the ones like Pau Torres and the Diaby, if they immediately hit the ground running for them. But yeah, apart from, I think Ollie Watkins is the one that I'm most concerned with, and if we're going to be without Fabian Schär, like, then we need to be doing a good job on him, like on either Botman or whoever's stepping in for Schär.
Let's talk about
keep him quiet.
Predicted lineups then. Obviously, Portby will be in goal, Trips right back, Botman left-sided centre back. But who do we expect to be starting right-sided centre back and left back? I'd say Burns probably going to be starting left back.
No doubt Burns starts left back.
It's a shame like Target's not looked quite as good as he was when we had him on loan, even in pre-season.
Yeah, even in pre-season he's been alright. And I know one of the games, I think it was the Villa game actually, yeah, he was playing like left wing. It's when we tried that 3 at the back formation, so it was a bit all out of the shop. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's particularly his fault that we didn't defend very well that game. Like the first couple of goals came on Trippier's side. But yeah, I can't see anyone else starting. Burns going to start. And if Shaw's fit, he'll start. If not, I think Lascelles will start. And I can't really see it being any other way than that. Like, yeah. Burn could play centre half and Target left back, but when we've got a right sided centre half, obviously we're club captain. Yeah, I think Lascelles would probably be the one. To be fair, like, he had some alright games last season. He kept Haaland quiet when we played City and he had to fill in, so he's not a terrible player. He's not a player that I'll see him in the lineup on Saturday and think, oh, for fuck's sake, like, Lascelles is starting.
He had a bit of a stinker.
There will be some fans.
Are you disagreeing?
Some fans will think that though.
Yeah.
Of course they would, because people are reactionary and they've got short memories.
No, they do, and I think that's sometimes an issue with the fan base. We are a bit too get a bit don't think the full picture or don't see the full picture at times. But I think Lascelles would be more than capable of doing what he needs to do in a game against Villa. And like the examples you gave last season, definitely didn't do too much wrong.
I would worry a bit about Lascelles up against Watkins, but I think it's still the most likely. Centre mids then. Who are we thinking gets the nod in centre mid? Because obviously Anderson's had a quality pre-season in there. Bruno, you would assume would be the first name on the team sheet, but he hasn't had the best pre-season. Tanano's come in. Longstaff's not had the best pre-season. Willock's still injured.
So,
Joe Linton probably be in there.
Yeah,
I think that it's that sort of right side that's under question. I think Joe Linton and Bruno are absolute knockers. It's whether he wants to put Tonali in from first game, and if he doesn't, I think Anderson starts. I would not be surprised to see Anderson start on the right of a midfield three. He can use both his feet. Joe Linton's clearly better on the left, so I think we could see a midfield of Bruno in the middle, Joe Linton left, Elliot Anderson right. But would he do that to Tonali? Would he pay all this money for him, play him? It's not like he hasn't played in pre-season. Would he not start him?
I think he does. I think he starts him. I think more because he sees something in him which knows that he's like a really professional, like, competitive guy who, wouldn't want to be seen to be sat on the bench. So yeah, and I don't know whether or not he'll play into the fact that first game of the season at home, like that the fans will want to see the new signings playing. Maybe I don't think Eddie.
With Bruno didn't get his place in the lineup straight away. It took him about 7 games to get into the starting lineup from the start of a game.
That was January signing though, wasn't it?
It was, alright.
So like no pre-season. So
yeah, still
could be different. I think the main thing is like with Longstaff probably not being 100% fit, ready to go with his pre-season. I think he'd be the one that would have probably started ahead of Tonali, but yeah, I think I agree that we'll probably see Tonali. So Tonali, Bruno, Joe Linton. And then let's do up front. It's going to be Isak, right?
Through the middle.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this is it. Like, because we've seen last season Isak going out on left and Wilson through the middle, and but yeah, I don't think we'll see that as often this season. But I think it'll be Isak and Wilson just swapping out that central role for the starter games at least. Maybe coming off the bench they might shuffle it about mid-game, but yeah, I don't know, like hard to say really in terms of who's going to start that central one.
Again,
I'm going to say Wilson.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, Isak out left.
No, surely not.
Would you bench him?
No, I'd think would start Isak on the bench and then bring him on.
Fuck off.
I don't know. I not that I think it's like this is it. Like
it's gonna happen in some games for sure. So
of course it will.
It's gonna have to happen, but I don't know. Wilson start the season like I think he's I don't know. He starts seasons pretty well, doesn't he, Wilson? So that's why there's no signs to it that I'm thinking that, but yeah.
I think if you look at Villa's defence though, like I feel like Isak's probably more like better equipped to do damage against them than Wilson. I think he'll go with Isak to start and then bring Wilson on for the last half hour. But I don't know. It is one of them where it's kind of a toss of a coin.
Yeah. How do you bench Wilson when he finished last season so well? But Isak has been looking class in pre-season as well. Like he's turned defenders inside out constantly. He's making them shit themselves on the back foot. Like
it. Yeah, which you can make a couple of arguments. Like Isak up against say Mings, and Mings would be terrified of the like Isak's direct pace and like you say ability to turn them inside out. But then you could argue that Wilson would love a physical battle against somebody like Mings. So yeah, it's a tough one to call right now. But I'm gonna say I'll stick to my guns and say Wilson starts in that central role. As for my left and right sided choices, Miggy will obviously start right. He's been banging form pre-season, and there's not many others that I imagine would start that position. And then
you don't think Gordon could start on the right?
No, I think if Miggy's fit and he's in the form that he is, and if he's taken form from pre-season into the start of this season, he's scoring quite a lot of goals. You know, that left foot is looking lethal right now. You just don't not start him because there's goals in Miggy right now for me. So yeah, Miggy off the right, and then
I think
left.
You're forgetting about the person who's definitely going to start on the right, and that's Manquillo. Going to be doing nutmegs for days on.
I mean, in that case, he'd be playing right back instead of Trippier because that's where he was playing when he came on. It was more like a right wing back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had me thinking.
No, yeah.
I thought he was coming out with Jacob Murphy for sure.
I did, and when he went, and then I was waiting for Murphy, and I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I'm all for it, but
Murphy's nowhere near the starting lineup.
Do you reckon Eddie Howe came up with that 3-5-2 whatever lineup it was against Villa in the pre-season just because we were playing them first game and he didn't want to let them know what we were going to play like, so he just thought, let's just fuck on.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And then they even asked him that after the game, and and he's got such a good poker face. He's like, I don't really think you can do that really, and it's like, you definitely did though, didn't you?
You're talking fucking bollocks.
Yeah.
Proper. But on the left, you're expecting Barnes, I'm assuming, or do you think maybe he's not quite Eddie Howe fit? Barnesy.
No, I think he goes in he's again, he only just played last weekend, and that game against Villarreal where he was looked lethal again scoring wise, and he looked quite fit. I know he didn't play the full game, but he I think he's capable to start, and that extra bit of pace off that side might be, but then again, Alex could make the call on maybe Gordon could start off that left side. To
be honest, I'm gonna say 2 out of the 3 that I think is gonna start. I think Barnes will start on the left. I think Miggy will start on the right. But I think Isak might start up front. The form that he's in pre-season, the way he can turn defenders around. I wouldn't be surprised to see Wilson start because Isak off the bench is a fucking menace as well. But I just think Isak, he's young, he's hungry, he's had a good pre-season. I think he might give him the start. But yeah, to be honest, all these options we've got up front, it's a joy to have an actual headache of who we want to start because we've got too many good players. Wouldn't have dreamed of this 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah,
well,
that brings us back to the squad depth. Is from the defence forward, we are kind of unsure what he's going to do because we've got that much quality now. So, we just need to strengthen that back line up a little bit more in terms of depth. I think
1 or 2 more, and then we'll happen.
Yeah, because even the keepers, we've got 3 quality keepers really. Certainly, second and third choice, got to be the best second and third choice in the league.
You'd think so,
and to be fair, Pope's probably arguably the best first choice in the league. You could argue it. So
the best shot stopper, I'd argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so I hope we're right with Isak starting because he's in my personal FPL team. So, if you're doing FPL like us, join us in the St James'pod League, like we said at the start. Scores, guys. I'm gonna go 3-1 Toon. We'll track this from the start this season.
We were terrible at tracking it last season. You're saying 3-1. I'm gonna say 2-1. Toon.
I was gonna go 2-1 as well. Yeah, I reckon. Fuck it, 2-0. I'll keep it different.
Nice.
2-0. We'll keep our clean sheets. They're gonna be a bit rusty. We're gonna go out the fucking blocks. St James'pod's gonna be roaring. I'm not
fucking
gonna know what's
wait. Cannot wait.
Let's get more flags back out. Right.
Aye.
Well, we're all predicting a win for the first game of the season. Let us know what your predictions are in the comments, or hit us up on social media at St James'pod. Join us in the FPL and join us for the review of the game next week. We'll get together, we'll review that. Hopefully we'll be reviewing a win and some quality performances from all the lads. And if you've enjoyed the episode, please do like the podcast, like the YouTube channel, follow the channel, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you in the next one.
Fucking subscribe's the word, not follow the channel, you fucking spaz.